Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Mark's Business Check-in on a Wednesday morning. It's scorching outside. Temperature is 22 degrees if you're in Dublin. And if that has put a smile on your face, well, then I've done half my job. Because it's probably the opposite. But as I said, that's not the weather forecast. Just let you know what it's like out there. It looks okay, actually. It looks okay. I was out there earlier on, and it does look okay. So just to let you all know, we are live this morning on Mark's Business Check-in, which is live every weekday from 7:30 for about 20 minutes. And I'm Mark Beggs, talking about my experiences in running my own businesses for the last 30 plus years, to hopefully give you some advice or some tips to stop you making mistakes I made, and that things that worked out for me may work out for you. That's what I'm hoping people will get out of this. And to remind people, if you missed any of our shows, we started this on the 6th of January. All our shows are on our YouTube channel at Mind's Eye Education. And we also have an awful lot of free training videos up there, free training in sales and marketing. We have an awful lot of stuff up there for anyone who has anyone who's neurodiverse, who maybe their kids are dyslexic, dyspraxic, ADHD, or autistic. We have an awful lot of stuff up there as well. And we have an awful lot of interviews with people from the world of business and the world of education. So it's all up there. If you want some free stuff, it's up there on our YouTube site. So can we talk about one thing that an awful lot of business owners fall into the trap of? Customer service. It's very, very important when you have your own business or you're leading from the top that you actually do give good customer service. And it's important that, yes, if you have a certain offering, that you deliver on what you promise. That could be a product, you could be in a retail store, you could be in a restaurant that you own, you could be delivering products. But whatever it is, that if you promise something as part of your offering, that you deliver it, that you bring it to the customer as promised. So if you promise the customer that you're going to do work on maybe plumbing or electrician or electrical or painting, or you promise someone that you deliver a certain service to them, and maybe a software service, maybe it could be web design, whatever it is, or maybe it's an accountancy service or a legal service, that what you promise, you actually deliver that type of service to them in the way they want it delivered. And because the more you deliver the service you promise, the more your business will do well. But here's the question for you. When does the customer stop being the customer because of what they want, their demands? And when does the customer become the boss? And as I say to a lot of people who I mentor, one of the big challenges nowadays is to protect your mental health. And customers want more. I'll give you an example. A family member of mine worked in a retail outlet in London. And I was doing gym wear, expensive gym wear. Now, this was not cheap. This was expensive stuff. But what really surprised me, was that the customers were allowed to shout at the staff. The customers, if a size was not there, through no fault of the staff member on the floor, if the size wasn't there or the color wasn't there that they wanted or the style, an awful lot of customers were shouting at the staff, which I found incredible. I've never really seen that. And they would throw the item they were given on the floor at the staff member's feet and walk off. Now, the staff had to put up with that. If that was my shop, I would bar that customer, no matter what their spend was, from ever coming into my establishment ever again. But big retail outlets are allowing this to happen because they're chasing the euro, or they're chasing the sterling, they're chasing the money to the bottom line, they're chasing revenue. So they really are working hard to make sure their staff are treated in a terrible way. There's no comeback. The staff can't really give out to the customer and say, sorry, you shouldn't speak to me like that. I'm a human being. What is all that about? But these high-end brands and an awful lot of companies, they're under so much pressure to get turnover. They're under so much pressure to get revenue, to get margin, to get profit, to get customers even simply in the door, to get footfall, that they ignore that the people working for them are individuals and human beings, and this type of carry on by customers can seriously affect the staff's mental health. And that's why if you are running your own business, you need to decide very, very early on how much of your life is your customer going to control. How much, because of what they pay you, will your customer determine when they can contact you, what day of the week? Are they allowed to contact you on the weekend just because they pay you for a service? Is that part of the contract? Or is that outside the remit of the offering that you give? And we all have to remember that when you're running your own business, yes, you're running your own business to give a great service. Yes, you're running your own business to get turnover. Yes, you're running your own business to get profit and get people in the door. That's why we're all running our own businesses. We all want turnover. We all want to do well in business, right? So we all want that. However, at what cost? And one of the things I say in my new book, You Need a Neck Like a Jockey's Bollocks, is that you need to make sure that the customer doesn't become your boss. And I think that's important, because if the customer becomes your boss, then they will dictate everything about your business, how you deliver your service, what the service is, and when they should expect it. So they're taking that control of delivering the product or the service from you, and they've now taken that control. And that is not good, because as I say to people, it's your business. You're leading from the front. You're the managing director. You're the MD. You're the CFO. It's your business. So you went into business for yourself to help grow your business, or you joined the company as part of a management team or part of a team within a company. You joined them to bring your expertise in. And yes, you are going to deliver a result. But you cannot have someone else determine from the outside how that will affect your mental health. As I said, this company in the UK, and the family member has left working for that company now. I don't know how they lasted so long. Yes, the pay was okay, the commission was good, but being treated by customers, that customers shout at you because you don't have their size or you don't have the colour. And as I said again, these were expensive gym clothes. These were not your penny stuff. These were expensive clothes. And because they were expensive, it was obvious that a customer felt and had an attitude that they felt they could talk to the staff members in any way they wanted, which we all know is wrong. Anyone who's worked in customer service, anyone who's worked in the restaurant trade like I have, or in the retail trade, or anything like that, knows there's a line that someone crosses. They no longer become your customer. They are now someone that you need to get out of your life or burden for your business. We had a situation when I worked for a hygiene company. It wasn't my company. I was running on behalf of someone else. We had one particular customer, a big pharmaceutical company, and they believed, because of the size they were, and they knew how important they were to the company as well. And this is the other thing. You need to be careful on how much information you give your customers about how important they are in the business. Because if you tell your customers they're very important to the business, that they're essential to your business, and they realize that the money they give you is a serious portion of your turnover, they will exert control over your business. Consciously or subconsciously, they will exert control over your business. So this particular pharmaceutical company brought in a lot of turnover to us. But during even the COVID stage, when we all locked down and we were still supplying them because they were frontline and we were frontline, they were demanding stuff that they knew we couldn't get. And they were ringing at all times, giving out. And you could feel, even how they spoke to us, that no matter how hard we worked to keep them happy, that they would pull their business from us, even after all the years of service we've given them, because they couldn't get a product that no one could get in the world, actually. They couldn't get the product because we couldn't give it to them. But they felt they could ring us at any time, and they felt they could speak to myself or one or two others of the staff in any manner they wanted, and that we had to take it, and that we couldn't push back. And that's why you need to be very careful when you're running your own business. You need to lay some ground rules for yourself, first of all, in how much pushback will you take from your customers or your clients. And that's important. No matter what, whether you're an accountant, a solicitor, a painter, a plumber, an architect, no matter what you are, you need to decide at what stage do you say to someone, no, that's what I promised I could deliver, and that's the best I can do. Yes, I'm sorry if you have to go somewhere else because you feel you're not getting what you're paid for, but I have done my best for you. At what stage does that happen for you? And that's why when you're running your own business, it's important to lay out exactly what type of service you're giving someone. Like, what is the offering? What is the service? Like, and some jobs like carpenters and plumbers and painters, you can say yes. It might be easier to say, we're going to paint this room. And we're going to paint this room in 2 days. And the colour you picked is the colour we're going to paint it. And then we're gone. And that's what you're paying for. That's easy. If you're doing plumbing, you might say, yes, we're going to fix a tap. And then we're gone. We're going to put in a new shower. It's going to look like this. And then we're gone. We're going to fix your toilet, unblock it, and then we're gone. Same with electrical. So there's some services where you can define exactly what you're going to do and the service you're offering, and that's it. But there's other services, like in the retail service trade and in the restaurant trade, where even though you might deliver exactly what's on the menu, that the customer will come back and say that's not what they expected. And what you need to decide is, are they right, are they wrong, or are they just messing you about? I'll tell you a very good story about when I was a wine waiter on the car ferries many moons ago. About 1980 something, many moons ago. And I had one customer who ordered an Irish coffee. And Irish coffees were not easy to make. Okay? You have your coffee, you have your whiskey, you have your brown sugar, you pour the cream in slowly to make sure it doesn't sink down, and you have a lovely head on the Irish coffee, like you would have on a Guinness. So I used to have to, in the restaurant was separated from the bar, so I had to buy my whiskies through a hatch to make this Irish coffee. So I made this Irish coffee, and I brought it over to the customer. I thought it looked really well. I had to gem some whiskey and all in it. And they had a sip of it, and they said, that's not an Irish coffee. I said, sorry? He said, there's no whiskey in that. I said, there is. I said, 100% there's whiskey in it. And actually, if you had been looking at me in the hatch, you would have been able to see me pouring the whiskey in. But he said, no, I'm not paying for that. Now, I've already paid for the whiskey in the bar, so I'm already out of pocket for the cost of a whiskey shot. He said, no, there's definitely 100% no whiskey in that. That's just coffee and cream and sugar. So I took it back, and I said to the barman, can I have another whiskey, please? And he said, he saw I wasn't myself. He said, what's up, Mark? I said, that chap over there has just told me that there's no whiskey in this Irish coffee. And I said, his name is Mick. I said, Mick, you saw me put the whiskey in. I bought it off you. He said, Mark, don't worry about it. Let me make this one for you. So Mick took the thing. He poured the coffee in. He put the sugar in, gave it a good stir. And then he put the cream on top. And I said, Mick, there's no whiskey in that. You haven't put any whiskey in. He said, oh, hold on, Mark, hold on. He put his hand around the end of the whiskey bottle, rubbed it, and then rubbed his hand around the rim of the glass. That was the Irish coffee. That's all he did. Rubbed his hand around the rim. And I looked at him and went, but there's no whiskey in it. He said, Mark, there was whiskey in the last one, and that man owes you the money for that. He said, you bring that over to that man now and see what he thinks of that Irish whiskey. So I brought it over thinking, God, this fella, he knows his whiskies. He's probably going to go ballistic. I brought it over, put it in front of him. He looked at it, said, looks well. took a sip over, and he said, "That's fantastic. Now that's a real Irish whiskey." I said, "Brilliant. Thank you, sir. I'm glad you're happy with it." I walked back to Mick. I said, "He likes it." And he said, "Of course he likes it, Mark." And he said, "Mark, just remember, a lot of customers know shit. And an awful lot of customers talk shit. So you just have to give them the shit that they want. Because when you give them the shit that they want, they think it's fantastic." And it does show you that just because a customer portrays they know what they want and that they're the expert, they're not. So you need to make sure that customers don't step over the mark that ruins your mental health. If you're running your own business, you need to make sure that you're always the boss. You need to make sure that that relationship between customer and you does not change, that they become the boss and they dictate how you deliver the service to them. Like, can you imagine an electrician came in to work in my house and I said, no, I don't want you doing it that way. Here's how I want you to do it. I'm not the one that has trained as an electrician for 3 or 4 or 5 years. They are. Can you imagine if someone came in, a plumber came in, and I told the plumber, no, I don't want you to do the plumbing that way. I want you to do it this way, when they've done the training. And it's funny, very few people will tell a trade person how to do their job. Now, a trade person might tell you something different, but really, most people will not tell an electrician or a plumber or a carpenter how to do the job. They might tell a painter because everybody thinks they can paint. And yet, we're very quick to tell a chef how to cook a meal. We're very quick to tell someone in a retail shop how they should be servicing it and how they should have stock in of every single size, just in case they come in that day and just in case they wanted that size and just in case they wanted that colour. And we're very quick to tell accountants and solicitors how we want it done, even though they've done the training. So you as a business owner, you need to decide at what stage will you take the business and take everything in your hands and say to someone, "No, we cannot do that for you. No, we cannot deliver that service. No, you're wrong. Sorry, that's the best we can do." Because when I heard what was going on in the UK and the way customers in high-end shops were treating staff, I was appalled, absolutely appalled. I had another family member who worked in a more high-end store, and they never had that type of stuff. People with a lot of money came in, got what they asked for and went. It's the people in the middle who think they have a lot of money and who think they can treat people any way they want them and who think they can demand stuff. They're the ones that affects your staff and your mental health. So always make sure you're protecting your mental health. Always make sure you're protecting yourself. That's important. That's really, really important. So when you're working for yourself, make sure your offering is spelled out. You spell out the offering and what you're given in simple terms. And don't ever be scared to say to a customer, "No, that is wrong. That's not what you're paying for." Or, "No, we don't have that in stock." And you as an owner and a business owner, if you have staff, don't be shy. If your staff have been treated like rubbish by customers, don't be shy to stand up to the customer, because your staff are more important to you than your customers. Your staff are the ones who talk about your business. Your staff are the ones who praise your business. Your staff are part of your branding. So just make sure you stand up with them. The company in the UK didn't stand up for the staff. They stood up for the pound. They wanted the money, they wanted the turnover, they wanted the revenue, they wanted the bottom line. How staff were treated to get there by customers, they didn't really care. But many times, some of those staff in that store were crying after a customer went. Customers left them there crying because of the way they were treated. And you shouldn't let any customer treat you as a business owner in that way. If you're happy and you're secure that you're delivering the best you can as promised, that should be enough. That should be enough for you. And all that is in my new book. You need a neck like a jockey's bollocks to be an entrepreneur. There's a whole chapter in there all about that. So thanks very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If you're looking for any free videos, any of my interviews with the likes of the chap who started Yo Sushi, Brent Pope, and a whole lot of other interviews I have up there, even in Martin, I forget Martin's surname, who is doing Irish whiskey in Boston, with some great podcasts up there. If you have someone who's neurodiverse, maybe someone who's dyslexic, dyspraxic, ADHD, or autistic, with some great interviews and videos all around neurodiverse on our YouTube site, which is at Mind's Eye Education. And it's free training, sales training videos up there as well. And yes, they are free. So you can go in there and find them. And we talk about how to go and approach a customer, how to sell, branding, all that type of stuff that I think will help your business and help you as a business owner or someone who's leading from the front. So I'll say good morning to everyone who's on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Thanks so much for joining me this morning. I'm Mark Beggs. I'm here every weekday from 7:30 for about 20 minutes, just giving you some advice from my own experience of running a business for the last 20 years, hoping you don't make the mistakes I made and stuff that went well for me, that you can use them to make your business bigger, better, and more profitable. And don't forget, if you do need to contact me, it's markbeggs@gmail.com. Have a great morning, folks. Have a great morning.